Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I am your host, Matthew Peterson. And on today's episode, we're going to break down and recap the latest NFL trade rumors and how it applies to the Cleveland Browns because they have two notable names, two starters that are being dangled out there as potential trade candidates. Now, as a little bit of a primer before we look at those trade rumors, just to refresh everyone's memories, here are the draft picks the Browns currently have for the 2025 NFL Draft, just so you guys are aware of what they could be adding to, right? They picked up a third because of the Amari Cooper trade. They don't have a fifth-round pick. I think that goes back to the Za'Darius Smith trade. So they've got a fourth and a sixth, a couple of sixths, actually. They've been moving some sixth-round draft picks around. Draft picks, by the way, this far off are always so fluid, so don't get too attached to any one set of list of picks. But let's start with the first bit of news and rumors on Greg Newsome. So ESPN came out with a pretty detailed document or pretty detailed report article of what they're hearing right now going into NFL Week 9. And this is what Jeremy Fowler said about a trade he would like to see happen. Browns cornerback Greg Newsome to the Buccaneers for a fifth-round pick. The sense is that Cleveland is open for business with several players, and Newsome, with first-round traits and 42 career starts, should draw interest. Time to talk about Greg Newsome in a little bit more of a serious tone as a legitimate trade candidate. His name has been tossed out in trade ideas for years now, right? Going back to 18 months ago when people were trying to flip Newsome for Jerry Jeudy, and then, Andrew Berry got Jerry Jeudy without giving up Greg Newsome. However, the former first-round pick does have a pretty hefty 2025 contract that has to be factored into any conversation. Any team going out and trading for Greg Newsome is also acquiring $13.3 million fully guaranteed for 2025. Now, the Browns could eat some of that money. They did that with Baker Mayfield when they traded him to the Panthers. But my suspicion is if they are trading him away, they are also looking forward to getting $13.3 million off of their books. So they're not so desperate to eat some of the money just to get a fifth-round draft pick. Newsome this year, though, it hasn't been a good season. He has not been very good. But last year, 2023, 2 interceptions, a pick six against the Ravens, 14 pass breakups. It was the best year of his young career. But like I was saying, this year, different story. He is on pace for a career high in yards allowed at 381. He's already given up a career high 3 touchdowns through halfway through the season. And PFF, which I don't think you guys should completely latch onto the teat at, but they hate him, 106 out of 110 qualifying corners. So the question that I have, and I don't really know the answer, is are the Browns resetting or are they rebuilding, right? If they are rebuilding, then yeah, you trade Greg Newsome. You go out and get a fifth-round draft pick. You get that money off your books. A fifth-round pick is probably not going to turn into as quality of a player as Newsome, but that's what you do in a rebuild. You get contracts off of your books, you go young, you go cheap, and you rebuild. But if the Browns are just resetting, right, where they feel like, hey, we still feel like in 2025, with a different quarterback, if they don't think Deshaun Watson is the solution for them next year, they can still be a very competitive team, just a couple of little, tweaks and changes and some nails and getting screwed in and whatnot, then you hold on to Greg Newsome, I would say. So that's kind of the question I have for the Browns and for everyone watching right now is, do you think this is a team that's going to be resetting or rebuilding? I personally think it's a reset. I don't think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski feel like they need to tear it down right now. If they did, I think they would be open to trading some more higher profile names. The fact that they're not, to me, signals they're headed towards a reset. And in a reset, you usually hold on to your young, quality players. And I know it hasn't been a very good first half of the year for Newsome, but I still think he is a starting quality corner in the NFL. You hold on to those pieces during these time phrases. What you don't hold on to is 30, 31, 32-year-old guys. And that's what we'll talk about next. But let me know, would you trade Greg Newsome if you were Andrew Berry and the Bucs GM liked what ESPN offered there from Jeremy Fowler about a fifth-round pick for Newsome? Would you do that deal? Personally, I would pass. I would hold on to Newsome, Giving up $13.3 million would make your life a little bit easier to get below the salary cap for next year. But I don't think a fifth-round pick is a fair value for a corner that last year showed he's worth more than a fifth. So, following Greg Newsome, the other player that Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler talked about was defensive end Darius Smith. This is where, even in a reset, you acknowledge that guys over the age of 30 that contractually wise are not difficult to move should be in deep consideration for a trade. And I'll share everything about Za'Darius Smith in just a moment. But first, quick shout out to our wonderful sponsor today, and that is Game Time. Game Time has so many awesome features like the Game Time Guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They also offer Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I love using Game Time whenever I go to a college football game like I did a few weeks ago to watch my alma mater, Tennessee. So I recommend checking Game Time out. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Let's turn back to the other player that ESPN highlighted as a trade candidate for the Browns, and that is Za'Darius Smith. So here's what Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler both said on kind of what they're hearing and what to keep an eye on. Graziano said Smith is 32 and probably not in Cleveland's long-term plans. So if the Browns can get good enough draft pick compensation in return from a team looking for a short-term rental at edge rusher, this makes a lot of sense. Fowler said, though Cleveland won't be looking to dump core players, and it could be active if the right opportunities arise, a decent day 3 pick for Smith probably will get the job done, from what I'm hearing. I'm just going to call my shot right now for the 100th time. Za'Darius Smith, you are a Lion. We saw the Browns make a deal with the Lions last year. Obviously, there is a familiar name and voice in Detroit right now. You've got not Ken Dorsey, but the other Dorsey working in the Lions front office. And with Aiden Hutchinson gone for the rest of the year, and Za'Darius Smith at this point shaping up to be the best edge rusher available at the trade market, it just makes way too much sense. A 6-1 Lions team that desperately needs some pass rush help, and a 2-6 Browns team that even if they were to rattle off a bunch of wins, I don't think they're going to be a playoff winning team. And at 32 years old, Smith is not going to be here long term. The Browns brought him back because, and we all did at the time, they thought they had a real championship window for this season. Whether or not you think the Browns are going to make the playoffs or not, I don't think this team is going to be in New Orleans. And I know no one wants to hear that, but that's just my 2 cents. So, with that in mind, that being said, that should free up anyone over the age of 30 in Cleveland. Za'Darius Smith, Shelby Harris, Wyatt Teller, I think, is 30 years old. Like, those are guys that you should keep an eye on to get dealt. Plus, on Wednesday, Za'Darius Smith did not practice with a, quote, illness. The illness he's suffering from is trade-itis, because he is packing his bags, and the Browns do not want him to get injured before a trade goes down. I still think there's a chance Darius Smith, not even a chance, I think it's probably likely, all jokes aside, that Smith will play on Sunday, because why not, right? Drive up his value, and if there are multiple teams interested, and Za'Darius Smith picks up another sack, man, all of a sudden, the Browns go from asking for a 5th-round pick to a 4th, or from a 4th to a 3rd. So keep driving up that value. Honestly, if Darius Smith gets a sack on Sunday and things start going downhill scoreboard-wise, pull him out of the game and make sure he is healthy before that Tuesday trade deadline. So of the 2 guys that ESPN covered today, here are my projections. For Greg Newsome, I think he is still on the Cleveland Browns roster come November 6th. I don't think the Browns are going to get a good enough offer to move a player that I think they still like at a position I know they value a ton, and that is cornerback. So for me, I don't think a 5th-round pick is going to move the needle that much. Now, if a team comes in with like a 4th-round pick or maybe even a 3rd, definitely not getting a 3rd. I mean, Darius Smith went for a 3rd-round pick after the Super Bowl last year, and he played way better than Newsome has for the first 8 games of the season. So for that reason, I just don't think the Browns are going to get what they want for Newsome, and then they will just hold on to him ultimately. Za'Darius Smith, you are going to Detroit. I mean, my prediction is he goes to the Lions for a conditional 5th-round draft pick that could elevate to a 4th-round draft pick based on playing time, or more likely based on how far the Lions go in the postseason. So for that reason, I think Smith will be a Lion because of what I said earlier, and the Lions are looking at it as a win now mode. And I remember what Dan Campbell said to the media a couple of days ago, and the overall tone he had in his voice about the Lions potentially making a move soon. He sounded like a guy that was in the know on something happening shortly. So I think Newsome stays. I think Za'Darius Smith, you are a Detroit Lion. So pick one of these 2 players to trade. Would you want to trade away a younger but more expensive for next year, $13.3 million cap hit Greg Newsome, or an older but right now a much better player? I mean, don't get it twisted. Za'Darius Smith this year is having a really solid year when it comes to destroying pockets and generating pressure on the quarterback. He may not have the speed he once had to close in on get those sacks, but he is still disrupting plays, and teams value that a lot. Before we sign off, while you're giving me your vote in the comment section, I just want to give some quick shout-outs here to the Brown and Orange Club. Thank you guys so much for being such loyal and devout supporters of the channel. If you want to get added onto the list to get shout-outs for the entirety of the season, $50 super chat during our watch parties, like the latest member, Richard Belt, which, by the way, Richard, what are you flying in that picture? If you're watching right now, let me know in the comment section. My dad's a pilot, so I've been in a couple of cockpits before, but let me know down below what you're flying, Richard, and appreciate everyone for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give us a thumbs up, and I'll see you all next time.